Picture this. You're in front of your latest prospect, closing the biggest deal of your life. Your pitch decks were perfect. Your scripts, flawless. And when the time came to answer the golden question of, are you ready to move forward? Nothing happened. For everyone who loves sales, this is their worst nightmare. But fear not, because in this podcast, we're unraveling the enigma behind those missed opportunities. From appointments that evaporate to presentations that felt like a Broadway show but ended in awkward silence, we're dissecting it all. Welcome to Love Your Sales.
This podcast is presented by GenHead. GenHead leverages AI so small and medium-sized businesses can find their ideal clients to make more sales. Other companies talk about AI, but we are using it every day to drive down marketing costs and increase revenue. Learn more at genhead.com. That's genhead.com.
Welcome to another episode of Love Your Sales. I'm so excited because today I am joined by Lynn Corazzi. Lynn owns his own business. He helps leaders fix, know, and grow their businesses by making their data work as hard as they do. With over 20 years of experience as a director and CFO in various industries, Lynn has a proven track record in increasing sales, margins, and efficiencies through data-driven strategies and solutions. His mission is to have a lot of fun with you as you turn data into the most valuable asset. Outside of work, he also has fun with a brand new grandson. Lynn, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so excited to be here. And, part of it is you said the words that mean the most to me twice there, and the word fun, because we should have a lot more fun oftentimes than what we're having, particularly when it comes to understanding our numbers. It causes anxiety and it causes stress and uncertainty and leads to, in the worst case, that whole nasty imposter syndrome that everybody goes through at some point in time. So my job is to help you get more out of that, and working together, we're going to have fun, because I can't do this in a serious way.
Yes, money as a small business owner, that is absolutely the number one thing. I talk to clients every day about, hey, let me take the stress out of the sales aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to even in my own business, when I'm dealing with the numbers, when I'm dealing with trying to understand what those numbers mean, it's so far over my head. And I go to conferences about let's understand your numbers. And I'm writing all of this information down and I'm going, wait a second, I don't even know where to begin. They talk constantly about, well, understand what's coming in, understand what's going out. And the more power or the more information or the more you understand this, the more powerful it is as a business owner. And I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing then, because if understanding it has power, then I have no power. I'm very weak.
Okay, the superpower that you need to develop is, okay, you look at your numbers, that tells you what, right? This is what happened. It something caused those numbers to be what they are.
Right.
But the second what is what caused them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see what they are. I need to understand what caused them, because then you can get to the really fun start of, what do I do about it?
Right.
And that's the piece where people make that transition between accounting, which is accounting A, go, actuals, finances helped me figure out why it happened, but F is for the future, which is where your fears, your fortune, or your failures are. And we need to look ahead.
And it makes so much sense because, and it's funny because I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday about, market trends and things like that. And coming from the industry that I did in staffing, I was saying to them, I'm like, my dad was in real estate and he used to call me and say, what's happening right now in hiring trends, in our our company slowing down, our company speeding up? Because that was an indicator to him what was going to start happening in the real estate industry. And
Okay.
really quickly after those two things happened, we would then see what was happening with, the trends in the market, because there are indicators historically throughout, you know, and this is all
Mm-hmm.
studies throughout the world. There's always indicators before we go into a recession, before we
Yep.
come out of a recession. And often I always saw that coming from, a tenured person who was HR, sales in staffing. I always started to see a slowdown at certain, indicators of what was going to
Mm-hmm.
happen in the market. And that is the same thing that, I wanted to talk to you about today, because there are indicators, I'm going to assume, with numbers,
Mm-hmm.
understanding your numbers, how you
Mm-hmm.
can turn that into information that you can use to know what's happening in your business, and
Yeah.
specifically today in sales,
Yeah.
right?
And and if there was one line on the over, you got the balance sheet, your income statement, there's the two of the big three financial statements. If I could only look at one thing every single day and just spend all my time on it, it would be sales. Because at the end of the day, sales is it's relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's relationships between these people that are selling for you. They're out there doing four different things, every single day. They're talking to customers and prospects, and those people are just going to make four different decisions every single day. It doesn't matter whether you're selling airplanes or paper clips. Four things you can do, four different decisions customers are going to make. And every time you create an invoice and all those different line items on the invoice, and you got your product tables, you have all this data around you can tease that out. It's not easy. There's not a system in the world that I know of that does it, but you can break sales down into how are you really growing? Because now we can take all that customer information and say, okay, how do I want to grow?
Mm-hmm.
You say, I once talked to this guy. And Bob told me they were having a great year. They were up 6%, but next year they needed to be up 8 to 10%. I said, why is that? He says, well, we're gonna take on some debt to expand the warehouse. I said, great. What are you going to do differently? He says, we're going to sell more. Well, of course you're going to sell more if your sales are going to go up, but
Right.
are you going to hire a new sales rep? Yeah, probably. I'll need to do that. Okay. Are you going to hire the hunter, or are you going to hire to go out and get new business? You're going to hire a farmer because your retention isn't as good as it should be with your existing customers, or do you have a chance to grow ancillary sales with a couple inside sales reps?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about it like that before. Well, again, what are your objectives? And what are you trying to do? What four things do you want people to go out and do every day? Try to get customers. So it comes to wraps. Wraps is retain the customers you have, acquire new customers.
Mm-hmm.
The product penetration is the P. That's selling different categories of products to the same customers. And then there's same sales. If you can get someone who's buying 15 this year to buy 20 next year, just in that relationship, by growing that business, those are the only four things you can do: retain, acquire, produce, product penetration, and same sales. What are the customers deciding to do? They're going to keep buying with you as opposed to quitting.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, buy more, and they're going to buy a greater variety, or they're going to stop.
So when you're working with somebody, talking with somebody, about this,
Mm-hmm.
is there something specific that you're looking at in financials, or if I'm using the wrong, I don't know if financials is the right term. Uh,
Yes.
what are you looking at, and what indicators in that would help that person make the proper decision on what direction to go?
Yeah. There's it. You hate to say it depends, but it really depends,
No.
because every business is going to be different. But you think about your financial statements; they are the meal that's done. That's the plate that just came out to you. And how you interpret that meal and what goes into it reflects all the different ingredients that you put in. So, and all those different ingredients is the data that you have available. So the first thing that I'm going to do working with you is just, first of all, you said it before, how are things trending?
Mm-hmm.
Are things trending up or down? And then when you can peel that back a layer, okay, that's the first thing. A lot of people, unfortunately, they look at their income statements as a month, as a month thing, or they're going to compare it to last year. Okay, so you're way up this year. Is that because you're having a really great year this year, or is it because last year just sucked? It's one of the
Right.
two. You have to go back and look and understand what was going on in both of those time periods. So what's going on with customers today? So I had a client who was up, he said, like, I'm up 15% this year. Great. But we peeled it back a little bit and said, okay, let's look at all your customers, because he knew the top 10, and everybody knows their top 10 customers.
Right.
Yeah. And the biggest one was up the most of all. Okay, Paul, you realize that they now represent 70% of your business, up from
Oh,
like 62. So 62 is bad, but now they're becoming a critical mass. So you've got if they were to go away, you've got a huge business risk there.
right.
And oh, by the way, they're the ones who take margin from you, because they take they take advertising dollars, and they insist on this higher level of discount than you give to anybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, you're growing with them, but you're growing less profitably. So we talked about the next bunch. I said, well, what about the other 90 customers you have? I said, did you notice that these two way down in like 60 and 80 were really, really growing? So I didn't even know where of them. So the first thing we're going to do is go look at all the customers, and then kind of slice the data that, if it's available, by different product categories. How many different product categories do you have?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those are up? So it's really beginning to dissect what has actually happened, to go back to we have the what, sales are up, why, but then what
Right.
do we want to do? And and when you think about good companies are launching products all the time, and we're going to launch this new product. Well, who's going to sell the product? Because the sales reps have to be trained on it.
Right.
Did you change anything in their incentive program to reward them for selling the new business, which is
Right.
going to be harder than the existing business? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have trade partners that also need to be incented to grow this? And so it really is an analysis of what goes in it. And notice we go beyond just dollars and cents. It's how many customers you have, how are they ranking, where are they? Did you realize that most of your sales were in the northeastern part of the state, but in Madison, the second largest city, sales are flat there. So
Right.
it's just doing that extra looking to help explain we had to what, the so what is how did this happen, so we can decide what's next. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And when you said here's a client that holds 75% of your business, that's uh, even I know that that's wildly scary.
Hmm.
That's one of the first things that, as as a salesperson coming in, you never you never it, I was always taught it is way better to have 10 small clients that build up than one massive client, because that one massive client goes away.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I've made that mistake in my own business. Like,
right,
hey, because hey, I got this really big client, and now they're
right,
okay. When the gig came to an end, I had ignored a lot of the other ones, and
right.
it's that early business owners mistakes. But I talked to another prospect at the time, and he never came on. But I think he got a little miffed when he said, "Yes, I got this really big client that he won this bid for." I said, "That's great. You've now grown your business by 50% with one customer. What did you give away? How big of a discount did you have to have? Are
Right.
you going to be able to serve the existing customers? And what's going to happen when the contract's up in 2 years?"
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely. And this goes back to something that has been drilled into me by, a great mentor of mine early on in my career. If they buy on price, they'll leave on price. Meaning,
mhm.
if you're giving them discount after discount after discount to bring them on board, and they are a very large client, you, they will leave you on price. So even if they are a number one, client of yours, but you're continuing to offer them heavy discounts, you're
Mm-hmm.
right. Your margins are going down. Your margins are going down. They're a very large client. That's putting an undue amount of risk on your business because now what, say they even if they're just 50% of your business, but they're at a much smaller margin, you're
Mm-hmm.
making less on them, and they're owning 50% of your business. Well, not owning, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Or
sure.
they're, paying for 50. That's a really large risk, huge risk. And
Yeah,
a lot, there are salespeople out there who just are farmers. Oh, okay, now I've met a certain threshold. They slow down.
yeah. Oh, because I'm comfortable living at, with this
Correct.
much income, and why am I going to bust my butt to make, another 20% more?
Correct.
It is amazing, but
Correct.
it happens. And
And and to your point, another thing that you brought up, bringing on new product line, incentivizing those salespeople. How do you incentivize those salespeople? Understanding your numbers so that you are offering an additional incentive to, here's a new product. Hey, this will, for the first year, you'll get X amount for bringing this to market. And that's not even something that I thought of. And I'm living and breathing sales, but that is definitely an attractive thing for a sales. Hey, I can get an additional 2 points
mhm,
above and beyond what I'm currently making if I sell this, or, bring this to market quicker, or whatever that might be. That's attractive.
yeah,
Salespeople are money driven.
yeah. And it's interesting because we can talk all day about what salespeople do, but then the customers. I worked with another firm. They were a manufacturer's rep, and they would quote all these different jobs, right?
Hmm.
For the building and services industry. And we started. They had a new ERP system, tracked all their quotes. So which sales reps did it? How did they move through the company? Where did they go to? And then we took all that same information from the customer side, and then you can kind of like imagine this conversation with, used to be, hey, we appreciate your business. We do $1 million with you. Thank you so much. We'll be back again next year. To, we love your business, but you realize we provided 400 quotes to you, and we won about 100 of them, but you have 17 people. About three of those people accounted for almost 80% of them. We
Hmm.
love the fact that we're getting a lot of business from those three, but what can we do different to bring those other 14 people on board?
Right.
And now you're telling your customer about the behavior of their decision makers, and you understand their business with you better than probably they do.
Right.
Because, and again, it just allows a very different type of conversation for the president of one organization to have to go talk to the president of another organization. It
Interesting.
was that
So,
was very cool.
okay. So the ERP system tracked, and let me make sure I follow this. The
Yeah,
ERP, obviously, ERP systems are meant to do that. Every
yeah.
quote that went out.
Mm-hmm.
So the manufacturer's rep company was quoting their product.
Mm-hmm.
They had 14 reps, but only really 3 of them were mainly doing those quotes. They accounted for,
Oh, no, sorry.
oh, okay.
I probably moved too quickly from one to the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
my client, the company, they were selling to these companies that were building buildings.
Okay.
Okay, and they had 17 decision makers,
Okay.
of which we were only getting the business from 3 of them.
Oh,
So, so now the building services company who was building these buildings, could go to and say, hey, why do 3 of your people love our products,
right.
but the other ones don't? What can we do? Can we provide more training to them? Can we bring them in for a tour? And, so
Interesting.
they, or were they selling systems versus individual parts? But you can have a whole rich conversation built around data that's there.
Right.
And this is where making your data work as hard as you do, because every sales rep knows what they believe. But are they going to go in? And very few of them I found actually go in and analyze their own business.
Very few salespeople spend any time analyzing anything.
Oh, because
Anything. They're
because they don't want to do, they want to get out and sell. They don't want to
Correct.
talk. They don't want to look at a computer all the time. And that's
No,
why geeks like me kind of don't mind doing this kind of stuff.
no, I love geeks like you who could actually sit down and go, here's what this means. Like you, and I have a very robust, CRM system that can literally
Mhm.
say, here's how many quotes because I do everything through it. I am for being a very high I, for being a very, you know, ADD person. I do have an analytical side, but I have to
Okay.
be in the mood for it. And half of it ends up on my little sticky notes that I have literally all over my desk. I mean, I
Yeah.
have like 30 of them. And then when I'm finally like in that headspace, I can go, okay, now I'm ready to enter all of this information in. I can now like do a real quick analysis. How many proposals did I write? How many of them were, are in a pending state? How many blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
I am capable of getting, but do I always know what it means?
Yes.
That's the
And
thing.
well, and this is where, anybody can hire a big data scientist and go do all this stuff. And the question is, what is the real information relevant to that business versus a
Mhm.
lot of very, very interesting trivia. And that's where the experience that I've had in working with this, really comes into. Okay, yes, I learned financial analysis from Procter and Gamble, and I worked for 10 years with the Grande Cheese Company, both as a finance person, as a sales operations analyst for all practical purposes. And what we did there was we built a system over. It took a while. It was an integrated CRM system and data system built around some proprietary work processes. But we boiled sales and marketing strategies down to 6 to 8 different numbers.
Mhm.
Those same 6 to 8 numbers went into our own sales reps compensation system. It
Okay.
also were built into our distributor trade programs. So now
Interesting.
you have the entire supply chain from the company making the product to the people selling it down to the very last mile, all making money on the same six numbers. And in a period of highest prices, we took our average growth rate from 1.5 to maybe 3% to over 7%
Oh
for
wow.
3 years straight. It was just the alignment around
Right.
data and information that was easily accessible, perfectly clear. It was always current. And by gosh, we jumped through hoops to make sure that it was correct. It was that 4C's diamond quality data,
Right.
and everybody believed it.
Yeah. And that's so see I started and here's just a background on me. I originally started going to school for accounting. And I realized I have a disorder called mixed dominance disorder. It's a form of dyslexia. So really quickly my first accounting class ever, I realized, wow, I can't do this. I flip numbers around and I don't even know I do it. I do it every time they ask me for my husband's phone number somewhere. I actually have to show it to him and go, is this the number I gave you? Because
Oh,
even
wow.
when I'm reading it sometimes, I will flip numbers around. I've given my address out to people incorrectly because if I'm reading, it was when I first moved in. Now I've memorized it, obviously, but I flip numbers around. I write numbers in reverse sometimes. Um, it's like I said, it's a form of dyslexia that
Mhm.
I know I have. I have to relearn my right and left every day. Anyways, the point being, so I do have an analytical side, and I remember, um, my cousin got this puzzle. It was a puzzle that can be put together there were squares and it had heads and tails on it. And I remember I said to my family, I'm like, I bet you that I can sit down and solve that puzzle. It had 9 pieces in less than 10 minutes. And they're like, no, it says on here that it, can take some people, years to do that, blah, blah, blah. Some people can't even solve the puzzle. And I said, I bet
Mhm.
you in a mathematical equation, I can sit down and solve that in 10 minutes. And what I did was I counted the number of heads and tails that were on this, and it
Okay.
had colors and everything else, and figured out which piece had to be the centerpiece
Okay.
because there was only one that could be a centerpiece. And once you identify which one had to be the centerpiece, it made it really simple to put it together. And that was it. All I did was through a mathematical equation of counting the number of
Yeah.
heads and tails on each one of them, eliminating which one could not be the centerpiece. I figured it out through, like I said, a mathematical equation. And that right there, the point of this is that numbers and math, and when I was in high school, you're going to use math one day. Now, I'm not saying that was used for business, but it's one of the most powerful tools that
Yes.
people underutilize on a regular basis. I do in my business all the time. But I remind my clients all the time, if you're taking a new product out to market, if you're especially as a small business, especially as launching a new business, it takes a minimum just as a new salesperson at a new company to get your name out there and for people to start recognizing your name. 12 to 16 touches, email, social, phone call, leaving a message, text message, if that's the type of communication that you use, for them to start recognizing your name enough for them to actually pick up the phone or respond to you in an email or feel comfortable enough to do that. So if you figure 12 to 16 touch points,
Yeah.
that is a ridiculous amount of communication, but it's a numbers game.
Yeah, people say that all the time, and the question is, which numbers are you going by? Which numbers are really driving your business?
Right.
You can get caught up on all these 30 different lines on your P&L, but if it really comes down to wages are the biggest item on your there, that's the one you got to control, because it's how many people do you have? Why do you have that many? What can you do to eliminate that, or how do you have each one of them be more productive? And there's people that, you asked me, what would we do after looking at this, having the conversation around what really drives your business? How do we monitor and keep the pulse on what those key drivers are? And then once you start projecting out a forecast based on assumptions, data-based assumptions, then you can say, okay, are we right in this? Or if there is something fundamentally that says this is the absolute minimum amount of wages that we need, okay, and we can't reduce that anymore, then we have to either say, okay, how do we grow sales even faster, or what other stuff needs to go? But at the end of the day, you cannot save yourself into sustained profitability. You need to have the sales growth.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I preach. Sales
Yeah.
is the lifeblood of any organization if you want to continue to either sustain your business or grow your business, because
Yeah.
it's what it is, the driver.
Yes. But what would you say, Leanne? Congratulations, you made $1 million this year. How do you feel about that?
Well, what is my tax ramification on that?
No, okay. Simple question. How do you feel about making $1 million?
I would be thrilled if I made $1 million in my business.
But what if you expected that year to make 2?
Well, then I would be devastated.
Yeah. So the difference between those two emotions is, what were your expectations? My God,
Right.
if you thought 500,000 was beyond the realm,
Right.
and you make $1 million, oh my God, I am so freaking happy. But then it's like, okay, what did I get wrong that I only made half? Granted, I'd still be happy with $1 million, and I'd love to pay the IRS my minimum required taxes on $1 million.
Right. The minimum required.
Yes. That's
Yes.
a whole separate discussion about numbers and people who know how to use those numbers to save you numbers so that you could put more of them in your bank.
And I'm pretty sure, Lynn, you have discussions like this all the time in different forums, correct? You do
Yeah.
you do training and things on, your numbers and that kind of stuff, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And like I just started a couple of weeks ago, brand new client. And this they have 2 businesses, 2 different locations. And she wants to know, when can she actually quit her day job? Can she ever quit her day job?
Right.
So we're looking at 2 different businesses, projecting, what could be the value of them over the next 5 years. We're looking at a couple other business that she's thinking about, and again, we're going to model those things out. Again, okay, let's start with some driven assumptions, and then if we take this and roll it all together into, okay, this is what income will be coming in from the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Does it cover all the debt, all the personal household expenses, plus generate enough savings for the kids as they get older, for them to start putting together the retirement fund? So really, and she's asking a lot of the same questions. What do these financial statements tell me? So we're going to go through what they tell you, also tell you what they don't tell you, because I don't know anybody who can say, my accountant told me I made $50,000 this quarter, but I know it's not in my bank. So where did it go?
Right.
Nobody knows
I'm
where it goes.
I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to have some money, but I'm not sure where it went. I keep getting these letters from the IRS telling me that I owe them money. So it just keeps going out.
Yeah.
And uh, just as a premise, was I supposed to do some type of analysis before I quit my day job to see if I was going to be? I missed that part. I just kind of
Well,
jumped into ownership.
so some of us just become accidental entrepreneurs, and it's, but at some point in time, yes, you have to say, I'm working this hard. Which numbers are not working? To come back to your point, if I'm only sending out 2 emails a day and I need 16 per person before they're going to, 16 touches, I do I really want to do this? And let's
Right.
face it, the vast majority of people that are working in their careers, they are working for somebody else. So it is the entrepreneurs who are putting everything on the line. But unfortunately, okay, now get back into, not just out of sales, but they do this without a financial business partner who's sitting by their side, and they make the mistake of not really acknowledging they have somebody doing their bookkeeping for them. They don't know what it means. They don't even know if it's right. They don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent if they get their income statement 5 days after the end of the month or 5 weeks after the end of the month, because they don't even know what questions and what expectations to put on somebody. So that when they get those financial statements, let's walk through them and talk about, why did this all happen? Not just for the month, but what's happened over the past several months. Are we
Right.
trending in the right direction with spending, with sales, in variable costs, in fixed cost? And don't give me just 40 lines on a P&L. Thing I really, 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 really dislike about QuickBooks, it puts all of your accounts in alphabetical order. Well, what if you have marketing, and then you have some printing costs, and then you have some other sales types expenses, and you have a website? You got to add up those four things. There's ways to rearrange it to just put all those marketing and sales type expenses together on one line.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you want to understand it, you have the detail that you can go digging back to. And if you have a question about what happened in a particular month, then you could go back and see all the gory detail that rolled into that one number. And again, it's just building that repetition of, what do I need to be looking at? How often do I need to be looking at it? And what level do I need to be looking at it? Because you can spend days looking at something, or you can spend an hour looking at something. Let's start with the hour and see what we learn from there. Then we learn to manage by exception.
This is my rabbit hole. I open up my QuickBooks and I go, oh no. Oh no. And then all of a sudden it's 5 hours later and I'm still going, oh no. No, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
That is truly my rabbit hole. When when it comes to, hey, Leanne, I need a quick analysis on how our position in the market as, a potential, from a sales point of view, what I do, my role is as either doing an analysis on, as a potential buyer so that I can give you, an analysis on that, all that kind of fun stuff. I can do that and have that done within an hour. But if you get me on the financial side, I'm in it for 10 hours and I'm still trying to swim to the surface going, what?
Yeah. Well, before we were talking earlier about words from Andy Wines, and I remember him saying the presentation I heard him make recently was, okay, you spent all that time doing something. Were you busy? Were you productive? And if you find yourself a lot of times being busy with something like this, you're trying to figure it out. So the question is, who can you talk to help you be a little more productive?
Productive.
And that's part of what I try to do, because I'm not going to do the work for people entirely, because I want them to understand and have familiarity. They need to recognize what those numbers represent, what they, again, what they tell them and what they don't tell them, and then what they can do with them. And that comes with practice over time. Only then should you really just begin farming it all out,
Yeah.
because you have to have some knowledge about what they are. Because think about someone else is doing your business, and well, yeah, if I put it here one month and there in another month, yeah, the tax guy will figure it out. Well, you're not the tax person. There's a whole different approach in something from a tax perspective versus an accounting perspective versus a financial analysis perspective.
Yeah. And so just to kind of sum things up, it is wildly important for not only for an independent or for a salesperson working at a company to
Mm-hmm.
understand what they're doing on a regular basis and understand their numbers of where they're putting their time. And I preach this to, people of where, what buckets are they putting their time in when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to and understanding the numbers. But for a business owner, wildly important for them to understand their numbers so they know where to invest in their
Mm-hmm.
organization when it comes to whether or not they are investing in a full-time salesperson, whether or not. So, Lynn, I so much appreciate you coming on today and talking with me about the importance of understanding, um, you know, the data so that you
Mm-hmm.
can accelerate your business on the sales side, on the profit and growth side. If you want to reach out to Lynn, I'm going to give him a moment to let you know how to do that. But before, Lynn, you have your 30-second shameless pitch to talk about your business. And then, yeah, give us how we could reach out to you if we're interested in your services.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, but really helping you understand what happens in your business. So, for those of you who aren't sure that you have a good financial background, a good financial confidence, and that's really what I'm working on is financial confidence, helping you fix, know, and grow. Fix means let's look at your accounting, make sure that it's correct. Know what it means, what it doesn't mean, know what other numbers you ought to bring into your business, and that's KNOW, not NO, not just NO. Fix, know, and finally grow. And that's where we're actually teaching you how to make decisions, better fact-based decisions, fact-driven assumptions about how to actually grow your business. And then finally, after working with me for a little while, I'm very much interested in being a little Shark Tank, my own little Shark Tank. I am willing to take positions and helping you I'm putting my money where your mouth is, because I'm going to believe in you. So fix, know, and grow businesses is what I want to do. Long term, I want to help you be a long-term involved financial partner.
That's amazing. And how does somebody reach out to you, Lynn?
Oh, I've got a website, www.data2profit.net. It's not .com, .net, and it's data, the number 2, profit.net. Or you can reach me by phone, 920-948-3355, or lcorazzi@data2profit.net is my email address.
Awesome. And we're going to have that in the show notes. So if you are interested in
Perfect.
reaching out to Lynn, you can find that in the show notes. Lynn, again, I really appreciate you coming on and educating us on how important your numbers are.
Well, I hope along the way that you also thought that this wasn't painless, painful, and that we actually did have a little bit of fun, because that's my New Year's resolution this year is to have more fun. And if I
I
can make this fun for people, then that's going to be part of my value prop. We're not going to be stressed out over all this. We will have conversations about them, but along the way, yes, there's going to be fun. We have to laugh about this because it is what we do.
I always have fun when I have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Love Your Sales. For more, connect with Leanne on LinkedIn and be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear what you think. Looking for a way to take your sales process to the next level? Visit us at loveyoursales.com to find out more about how Leanne can take your organization to new revenue heights. And be sure to join us next time for more great ways to love your customers so they love your sales.